Morning, Cap.
Morning, John. Apologies for my delay.
No worries. You're running a multi-club model. You've got RIFC going. I figure you and the ownership group. You're trying to figure out, okay, where else can we go in the world and have the umbrella of Michael Parkhurst Football LLC and try to figure out what parts of the world you're going to conquer next.
I don't know about that. What I actually was doing was getting more organized with Beyond Goals stuff.
Oh,
I've just got perfect example, John.
okay.
Just sheets of notes, random notes all over the place. And I'm like, enough's enough. I need to get more organized, get this stuff into documents. And so that's what I was doing and got distracted.
Well, okay. So you're running a business that is benefiting the public good, and you have all of these different. I mean, how much of your life is ownership and conquering USL Championship, and how much of your life is Beyond Goals right now? How many hours in the day do you need to get everything done these days?
Yeah, it depends on the day. There's some days I spend more time on some things than other things. The Rhode Island project is not too time consuming for me. I spend like 4 to 5 hours a week doing things, and so especially now that we have got Kano on board, a lot of my stuff is just assisting him and some meetings with him every now and then, and we've got one board call a week that I jump on, so not too much. And then probably about 10 hours a week on mentoring ish, and then with Rippleworks, the tech company that I help work with, probably another 5 to 6 hours a week. And that's where I spend my time, and squeeze in golf in between.
All right. So how are you shooting?
I've only played 3 9s so far this year, but I've been very happy with how I've played. 2 42s and a 44, which is very good for me.
Okay.
I'm getting my handicap down. I'm 11 now.
Wow. Oh, I'm jealous. See, but the thing is, for me, the less I play when I go back out onto the course, that round is fantastic. If I play consistently, I end up playing worse. If I have a lot of gap time between rounds, that round when I come back, I actually play pretty well.
I would assume, John, that is because of a mental block there. No, but it's true, right? I mean, that's honestly why I don't warm up before I go. When I show up and play golf, literally the first tee shot I hit is on the first hole. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. History has shown if I go out there and I hit balls on the range, I don't play well.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm all over the place, and when I go right out there to the first tee, I'll go anywhere from 250 to 320, and just I'm off and running. I'll go cold turkey, and then everything comes together by 13, and then it's like par, birdie, par all the way in. No, I'm right there with you. I get that.
Yep.
So when it comes to mentoring, and I want to kind of take what we were talking about and kind of steer it into that, and about budgeting your time and the conversations that you have these days with your mentees about budgeting your time. How different is it for mentees these days generationally than maybe the generation before that, and to your generation, and to parents of those who would be more my generation? How different is it for mentees and all of those who are attached to your mentees these days about budgeting your time? How successful a conversation is that?
It's way more difficult for this generation because of technology. And not only is technology available like it wasn't for us, but what it does to the brain is it just completely loses focus, right? It's like TikTok and Instagram rolls, it's literally just 5-second bites of this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And it's like, it knows that our brains just want constant new stuff. What's next. And it really is inhibiting this generation of their ability to focus on something. And I mean, there's far smarter people than us that are coming up with these algorithms and know that this is how the brain can suck people in. And so, when you ask a kid to sit down and study or sit down and read or something, like, it's a struggle for a lot of them because of that, because they're so used to that. So it's much, much more difficult for this younger generation.
How do you hammer that home, though, about separating from the video fast food to understanding that improvement isn't something that's going to happen in 5 seconds? It's something that has to be, you've got to go down the rabbit hole, and you got to want it. And it's going to take longer than 5 seconds. How many conversations and how much hammering that idea home do you have to have sometimes?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And it's just as many conversations with parents. Honestly, they want, instant recognition, instant feedback, instant moving up the ladder, right? And they don't understand that, it takes time to move up and to get better and see results and all these things. And, we want everything overnight. And that's players and parents, parents of especially elite youth players. So it's both. But that's the challenge. And that's why, we try and get kids bought in on the process, not the outcome, right? Of like, you have to be able to enjoy the process and enjoy the day to day, the training and getting better and the grind. Otherwise, it's not going to last, because if you're just, going after that result on the weekend and going after that tryout and after that, right? You won't be able to sustain the grind if you're not bought into it.
And I imagine, can you even go to a parent and even give them, and as much as the anticipation is there, the expectation is there for that instant gratification, can you go to a parent or a mentee and give them a little something? I mean, is it almost a carrot and stick kind of a thing where you give them even a little something to keep them engaged and to keep them from wanting everything now, like the Veruca Salt and, Willy Wonka, I want it now kind of a thing. If you give them a little something, does that help out, or does it literally have to be all or nothing?
No, I think that a little helps. I think that, the parents, we all want what's best for our kids, right?
Yeah.
What we think is best for our kids. And so I think that, helping them understand just a little bit of like, it's okay. They're still on the right path. They're still going in the right direction. They can still get there. That's important, right? Sometimes they just need that, to hear that, right? Of like, what you're doing and what you're providing for your child and these experiences and these trainings and this, right? It's great. It's helping them, right? But they don't need to be on Atlanta United when they're 12, right? If they are, great. If they're not, it's okay. They can still get there, right? One of the things we're dealing with right now is Atlanta United just made a ton of cuts, the academy, and it happens. And so Greg and I are talking with those families and those kids, and those are tough conversations where you're like, hey, it's okay, right? The end goal hasn't changed. It's just the pathway. The pathway has now changed, but the end goal is still there.
How difficult are those conversations? Because I imagine both for parents and for the student athlete, there is the desire, the want, the expectation that, hey, I thought that this was my path, but it may still very well be your path. It just may not be in that particular direction. How difficult is that first conversation?
Tough, very difficult. Obviously they're having that conversation with Atlanta United Academy staff first, and they're processing everything. And usually we don't speak to them until, a day or two or more after, to processed a little bit. But, our first conversation with the families is tough, because it's kind of like some of them are upset. There's a whole range of emotions, right? Of, being upset to, I just don't even know what to do next, because I haven't been in the soccer landscape in a couple of years or whatever, and finding the right team, or what is the right team, what's important. Do we need to move to another MLS academy? Right. Just a lot of different questions of the unknown. And frankly, what we found is the kids are more resilient than the parents.
You think that's a generational thing?
I think it's probably a control thing. That's how I view it. Right. When I was playing professionally, it was way more nerve-wracking for me to watch my team play, right? If I wasn't playing, if I was on the bench, if I was in the stands, whatever, it was so nerve wracking, so nervous. But when I was playing, wasn't nervous at all, once the game started, right? So it was like, because you have a sense of control. And I think that the kids know, sometimes, they still control their outcome, and the parents have less. So I think maybe that's a big reason.
How hard is it to let someone else drive the car at times? Because we all like control. We always think that our path is set in this direction. We're going to be doing this thing. But it's sometimes, you're not in charge of the car. Somebody else is driving the car, and you've just got to be along for the ride and hope that, you understand where it's going. How difficult is it to cede control and understand that you're not the one in charge? You can be a part of the process, but you're not the one in charge of the entire thing. How difficult is that?
It's difficult for all of us as parents, I think, and some more than others. I think and that's just because we think we know what's best for our kid at all times, right? And I was reading something the other day about technology and social media, and it was like, this younger generation, younger than me, right? My kids, they grew up with social media, and they know far more about it than we do, right? So for us to try and tell them how to use it and what to do and all this stuff, it would be like them coming up to us and telling us like, oh, we should refinance, and what are your mortgage rates and all this stuff. It would be like, no, I'm not taking advice from you about the mortgage rate. You don't know anything about it. And that's the kids' way of viewing it anytime we try and tell them about social media. And so it was really interesting, this thing that I read. It was like, you should be more inquisitive and ask questions, and then it gives them the idea that they know more, that they're in charge, that they're in control, and then you can kind of give input from there after you get that feeling that they're involved.
How much learning are you doing these days?
A lot. I think that it's important to always be learning and evolving. So I just picked up a book called The Mindset. I forget, actually, it's something mindset. But somebody recommended the book that was really good. And so I try and do more reading now than I used to, because I want to continue to learn so that I can provide the best mentorship that I can to youth athletes. I don't feel like I know everything. That's for sure.
So when it comes to books that you're looking at, who I guess in a periodical sense are your mentors when it comes to what you want to tell? Who's on that? I guess in the wooden pyramid of success for mentoring for you. Who's ahead of it on you that you're learning from, where you can pass on information these days?
I wouldn't say there's one specific person. I come across things on YouTube that I really enjoy from, sports psychologists with doctoral degrees and have really know the science behind why the brain does certain things at certain times that, I don't have that knowledge. I understand the experience of it and have gone through a lot of it, but the actual whys behind it, I find interesting. And just what other mentors in the mental space talk to their athletes about, and why, and the buy-in and that type of stuff I find interesting. So it's not necessarily anyone specific. I find stuff on social media, on YouTube, on books that I come across and I find interesting and helpful.
When it comes to opportunity, I know it's something that we talk about a lot, and I wanted to kind of look at it from the opposite perspective a little bit and get your thoughts on seizing an opportunity. Atlanta United had the chance to have players seize an opportunity in the Open Cup match in the midweek against Memphis. Yet, I think, it's safe to say that in a loss against the USL Championship team, there were players probably that had a chance for an opportunity that probably didn't seize on it. And it's going to go to their detriment unless they work that much harder going forward about getting that chance again in that kind of a situation where your team depends on you. And this is a universal thing. I mean, teams that lost an Open Cup, you had chances to sit there and show on a rotated side that you were worthy in front of your coach, and you either showed or you did not, and it's going to reflect on the coach's future decisions. When it came to your first opportunity where you thought you invested what you needed to in a situation, like I said, and this could be youth, it could be college, could be pro, could be overseas, could be wherever. I mean, this is in the pantheon of the Michael Parkhurst career. The first time that you thought you had an opportunity that it turned out you didn't take advantage of, but you learned from it. Can you remember when that was? I mean, you thought you balled out. You thought you were fantastic. Everything was cool. And it turned out that the opposite, or not as much of what you thought, it wasn't quite 100% in the eyes of others. You realized that later and learned from it. Have you ever had a moment like that?
That's a good question.
Like I said, it could be youth, it could be high school, could be college, early in your career, where later on it's like the light comes on and it's like, man, I didn't take advantage of that opportunity like I should have. And it took me a while to realize that. Have you ever had an opportunity like that go away that you learned from later? You're like, yeah, I probably should have done better in that situation.
I mean, there's definitely things where I look back on that I'm like, oh man, I don't, not exactly what you're talking about, but a couple of different things. One is I turned down my first invite to a national team camp. After like my first year as a pro. And looking back, I'm like, I should have been more ready for that opportunity. I turned it down because it was like 2 months. This was back when preseason, in between seasons was really long. And, I had played the first full year as a pro. It was a long season for me. I played every game and I was tired and exhausted. So I took a lot of time off. I was unfit. And then I got a random call to get into national team camp in January. But I wasn't fit, and I was like, I can't go in there unfit and show really bad my first opportunity. So I turned it down. So looking back, I'm like, well, I wasn't prepared for that and should have been. Then I also, when I was asked to play outside back as a pro in Denmark, I kind of half-assed it and didn't give it my full go, which was a mistake, obviously, looking back, because then 6 months later or so, when they told me to play outside back again and I actually bought in, I loved it, played well. We won the league. I played Champions League as an outside back. It brought me back to the national team. Those probably, hindsight is 2020 for sure.
Yeah. And so, when you have these instances like this, I know that we can look at them now, since they happened 2 and 3 weeks ago in your career. And you can sit there and go, yeah, I learned about the buy-in. I learned about what it takes to give 100%, to be engaged. Have you found mentees that you've come across, or situations, even if they're not your mentees, or just situations like that where you kind of sit there and you might want to nudge somebody and go, you might want to take advantage of this situation and respond better? Have you ever had to have that kind of a counsel where you kind of give somebody a bit of a wake-up call?
There's been a couple players that have been that we've worked with because they've been recommended to us more because of attitudes and discipline things. And those conversations are, more along those lines of, don't throw away the opportunity that you have here in front of you. Right. And I always go back to like the feeling of being injured. And when you've never had an injury and all of a sudden you have an injury and you're on the sideline and you're watching, like, you realize at that moment, wow, how lucky I've been that I've never been injured. Right. And you don't realize it until you're injured. And so don't wait until you're cut. Don't wait until you've lost this opportunity. Don't wait until you're not playing soccer anymore to realize, oh, wow, I'm playing soccer with my friends and I'm enjoying it. And this is a good life. And, I'm a kid and I get to do this and have fun and try and win games. Right. Don't wait until that's gone to try and, get your act together.
All right. Rapid fire in the next couple of minutes here. Some folks on the Twitch pitch have some questions. Coco wants to know, with you being in USL Championship at this point. What are your thoughts on USL Pro Rel coming down the pipe one day?
I've heard rumors about it, and that the expansion, it's possible that they could turn into like a USL Premier League and a Championship League once the championship gets big enough to split into two. So it's definitely a possibility. Yeah, it would be interesting. I think that's one thing USL is definitely intrigued upon and looking into seriously. And if Pro Rel were to happen in the US, it would be at USL, not MLS.
Figured as much. David wants to know how much time a week you talk to Darlington on his shoe phone.
I was actually thinking of him the other day, and I was like, man, I haven't connected with Darlington in a little while. I need to have lunch with him. He doesn't live that far away, and I haven't spoken to him in a few weeks. So need to dial up that shoe phone soon.
Well, but Darlington's probably going to want to go to a McDonald's or something and just have like 3 double quarter pounders with cheese, and you're going to look at him with those hyper salted fries and go, bruh, what are you doing?
He knows better than to invite me to such establishments.
Abby says next time you come down, you got to check out the new East Valley opening in August. It's coming along nicely. But she also asks, are you just mentoring high school and pre-high school, or also college and post-college folks?
Yeah, I have one mentee in college, and a few that didn't go to college that are young pros. So yeah, we do both. It's available. It's just usually when they get older, they don't feel like they need mentorship as much.
And so, and folks enjoyed your Michael Parkhurst. Folks enjoyed Michael Parkhurst left back, and Parky also had a couple of shots playing left back in 19. Really thought you were going to score as Michael Parkhurst left back. Folks enjoyed that, sir.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. You get more freedom out there. You try and meg people, and I love like the meg pass and just just having more freedom and more fun out there. You've got center backs behind you. I've got Miles behind me. I can mess around and make mistakes. It's fine.
Since you mentioned, and show off the pieces of paper one more time before we go that you brought into the room this morning. Yeah, so that's the notes that you have to compile and condense and put in a form. The thing is that you, I'm sure, understand what your notes are. You can read those things, and you know what you're trying to say. Everybody else looks at those things and they go, "What is this, dude?" And you're like, "No, I got it covered. This is what this means. This is this."
Yeah, but like this, it's some Ripple notes, it's some Beyond Goals Mentoring notes. Some of it's upside down, some of it's the other way. You're like, "What am I doing right now?"
And you're like, so now that you're getting organized with the notes, what is the latest going on with Beyond Goals? Because right now we're getting toward the championships here in Georgia when it comes to high school. What's going on with Beyond Goals these days?
Yeah, we've made really good headway actually, and we're going to be able to announce hopefully pretty soon a nice partnership with the Atlanta United Academy and a nice sponsor there, so that we can do some more work with them. So we'll be excited about that. And then the individual mentorships have actually been really, really strong lately. So we've been staying busy with those, which has been fantastic.
Yes, it is. And we always enjoy the conversations that you and Greg have with us every Friday morning in the 9:30 segment when you guys get to break things down. And I'm noticing, how much time do you and Greg spend talking to one another?
A few hours a week. We actually have a call at 10:30 this morning for an hour. We're going to try and align some stuff. And so, yeah, he's, on your phone where you've got like at the top, you've got like those people that I don't know what's pinned messages or something like that. He's one of my pinned people, because we talk a lot.
Well, and I'm noticing now that as long as, that I've been talking with you and Greg on Friday mornings, I'm hearing a little bit of Greg in you with your mannerisms and your transitions. And I'm hearing a little bit of you in Greg when he comes on. So I'm literally, it's like, I'm here. It's like you pick up his, right? When you're talking about things and it's the end of a sentence and you're wrapping the sentence up, Greg will do that same thing. And I noticed it with Greg first. Greg's like, well, and this is what's happening, right? And then I'm noticing now you're picking up his, Well, and this is what's happening now with us, right? You want this to happen, right? So you're picking up each other's mannerisms. That's why I was asking how much time you guys spend with each other.
Hopefully we're picking up each other's good mannerisms.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's just you're becoming almost Borg-like when it comes to Beyond Goals Mentoring. It's a collective element that there's meshing going on with you two.
Interesting. Well, that's part of us getting more organized is so that, Greg does his, and the nice thing is a lot of our mentees, they talk to me and him separately, because we've got different experiences. We talk about different things differently. Right. And right now we don't have a set booklet of like, hey, this is what you talk about. This is how you talk about it. Right. It's kind of like, you freestyle. And but sometimes we need a little bit more structure, and we're like, well, and if we ever add anyone, it'd be nice for that person to have a boom, here's a bunch of topics we talk about, here's some ideas, here's, and so we're trying to get more organized.
Nothing wrong with organization, nothing wrong with freestyling. So Cap, go condense your notes and make everything right side up, and we'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks, and just keep kicking butt with Beyond Goals. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. And hopefully Lanny and I turn things around on Saturday. I think they will.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one because Nashville hasn't yet figured out how to score goals outside of Hani Mukhtar. So we'll figure it out, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit. Thanks again, Cap.
Thank you, John.
All right, Michael Parkhurst. He's going to go clean up notes.